La Liga has become the best league in the world again. I think we can all agree that it's probably been the Premier League for about half a decade now, but with the emergence of Girona, the Galacticos 3.0, Barca getting back to near the best, and so many more reasons, here's why Spain's top league is on the comeback, so let's get into it. I think throughout La Liga's struggles recently, Real Madrid have been a constant throughout that, and they won a Champions League season before last, and they've had a very good side. However, I think this is probably the most exciting Real Madrid side that's been got together since probably when Ronaldo, Xabi Alonso, Kaká, all them lot joined in 2009. And I think this has been, rightly so, being called the Galacticos 3.0 because, as we've seen with maybe the best player in the world at the moment, Jude Bellingham, he is going to spearhead this Galacticos revolution. And I think with, obviously, Vinicius Jr., arguably the best left winger in the world, Rodrigo, who's massively underrated and is one of the best right wingers in the world, plus with that Endrick lad who's coming from Palmeiras, who is always exciting seeing a young Brazilian player because we've seen so many of them just flourish in the European leagues, and hopefully this lad can be the same. He looks an absolute beast up front, and if he's going to be because from all accounts he will be playing for Real Madrid, he's not going to go on loan, he's not going to go into Real Madrid Castilla, he will be in the first team. It's going to be very exciting to see. And I always think European football, but mainly Spanish football, benefits so much from having a Galacticos again, because obviously we saw it in the early 2000s, the first one with the Zidane, the R9, the David Beckham, the Roberto Carlos, and unfortunately that wasn't as dominant as they wished. And then we had obviously the Ronaldo, the Benzema, the Kaká, the Bale, the Ramos, all them lot, very dominant in Europe, but again, domestically, they weren't too dominant compared to Barcelona. But I think this Galacticos can be excellent, and they're currently second in the league, which we'll go on to the team who are first in a second. But someone like Jude Bellingham, he's a star, isn't he? He's 19, 20, and he is just going to be world class, if not already. And it's great to see. But if they can bring in, which I personally think this will be the deciding factor this summer, if they can bring in Mbappe, it will be a game changer. And I think that La Liga will take its crown undisputably back at the top, because that forward line will be unstoppable. It will be Messi, Neymar, Suarez-esque with Vini Jr., Mbappe, Rodrigo and Bellingham behind. It will just be unstoppable. And I think with Real Madrid, some of the older players like Modric, who's out of contract, Kroos, who's out of contract, they might move on, and we'll see. We're seeing the new generation coming in anyway at the moment. So I think the Galacticos are one of those that they are going to spearhead this La Liga, come back to the top. And then you've got Girona. I mean, who saw Girona coming? It's a complete Leicester season, and I'm not having people who say it's not, because Girona have been a yo-yo club, and just because they're owned by the same owners as Manchester City, look how much they've spent over the last few years. I think they spent about 5 million this summer, and they lost their best player, Romeu, to Barcelona. So it's completely, I think it's as close as we're going to get to a Leicester City season. But if they can win the league, I think it'd be fantastic, because it was fantastic for the Premier League when Leicester did it. It was a complete shock. I think it threw so many teams off guard, and it also pushed Leicester into the unofficial top 6 at the time, because they had so much more money at their disposal. And I think this will happen with Girona, because if you win the La Liga, you get roughly about 60 million euros, and it's a case where they have a billion, maybe even a trillionaire owner with the Man City owners, and they'll have so much money to just spend on more players, bring in more players, add to the stadium, because it's a very small stadium, it needs upgrading. And I think it'll be great for La Liga, because it just adds another team. And when you have another team like a Newcastle this season with the Premier League, it's great, because everyone liked watching Newcastle versus PSG, because it's always good to see fresh teams in the Champions League challenging for Europe, challenging for the title. And this is what we're seeing with Girona this year. And just a quick away from the good parts at the moment, some of you might be asking, well, I think La Liga is the best league in the world. And it's completely subjective. It's not a right answer. However, I do feel with the recent success of the Premier League teams and just the individual awards that are coming out, because I don't think the Ballon d'Or is a great representation. I personally think Haaland or Rodri should have won it this year instead of Messi. And I don't always think it's, representative of the season that someone's had. However, if we are just going to go on the Ballon d'Or, look at 2010. We had 8 out of the top 10 players were from La Liga. and that was during the Barca dominant year, so 3 or 4 of them were from Barca. However, you go to the next year, you got 6 out of 10. The following year, you got 6 out of 10. But if we're looking at the awards that have just gone, only 2 out of the top 10 players were from La Liga. Prior year, 4 out of 10, Benzema won it, fair enough. And then the year before that, 2 out of 10. So it's just showing that the individual, awards unanimously, judged from the panels and so aren't in La Liga. They're more in the Premier League, or they're more in the French League, or they're more playing for PSG, or they're more in the Italian League at the moment. And it used to just be complete dominance, because if you grew up, I think personally I grew up in maybe the best La Liga era with Messi and Ronaldo going at it. You had Pepe, Ramos, Piqué, Puyol against each other. I was just after the Ronaldinho era, but that era was just special, and I personally think it could get back to that. But it's not at this current moment. The Premier League is still dominant. However, I think with more reasons such as the re-emergence of Barcelona, let's say, I don't think they've completely got back to where they were, because they did win the league last season. I don't think they had a great European campaign so far this year. However, I still think they are on the comeback because they've got such good, talented young players. And I've said this in many videos before in an El Clasico video, but when you have people like Pedri and Gavi, they look like they'll probably be at Barca for the rest of their lives, let's say. And I know Pedri didn't come from the academy, but they just seem like Barca lads, they're going to be there for a while. You got Araujo in defence, who's just one of the best centre-backs in the world. You got Lewandowski, who is probably one of the best strikers in the world. And I think if this Barca team can get back to it, and also I feel with the stadiums at the moment, because everyone's probably seen the clips of the Bernabeu, the renovation, and it looks incredible. It looks like a spaceship, doesn't it, really? And it's going to be fantastic. But we also have to think the new camp is currently getting renovated as well. So if you see the 2 big teams in Spain, they're getting their stadiums completely redone, it's going to look completely out of this world for the next 10 years, because I think it's 2025 where Barca, like the new camp, will be finished. Probably 2026, in these things. But it's just be great to see, because it will have probably the 2 best stadiums in world football will be in the same country. And obviously you have the Atletico Madrid stadium. You never know if Girona get a new stadium, if they can get more money into the club. And I think all these reasons just add into the fact that La Liga is just going to be the thing to watch in the next 5 to 10 years. But also how you get more eyes on the sport. I think the fact that La Liga went to a premium streaming service maybe hindered them slightly, at least in the UK speaking, because I used to love watching La Liga on Sky, or it was also Setanta Sports back in the day. But now you can't watch it because it's on I think it's Viaplay in the UK, and there's so many streaming services nowadays, you're just not going to pay for another one. And I think they kind of shot themselves in the foot, because they had a massive UK following in the 2010s because of Messi and Ronaldo. And how many people in the UK like myself want to see Jude Bellingham, because he's from Birmingham, he's an English lad, and it'd be great to see one of our own national players, probably our best national player, play for Real Madrid. It'd be fantastic, but they haven't promoted that enough, in my opinion, because you can't watch it, you can really see the highlights. But with the TV, just the experience, regardless of it being on a streaming service, I think it is fantastic. I think it is better than anything in world football at the moment. And I think they know it, because they've brought so much technology, brought AI into the game, the cameras. And if we go into the cameras for a second, 8K cameras look unreal just in the La Liga. It makes it feel like you're playing a video game and you get real instant access to the coaches and walking out the tunnel. It makes you feel like you're in the stadium and you are walking out with the players, which, I mean, it's just great for every football fan, because you want to feel immersed in the game. And I think you do compare that to the Premier League, and I think this will probably be our downfall. I think the Premier League and just English football are just dinosaurs. They don't want change. We see with VAR at the moment, it's not doing well, and everyone's like, oh, it's fine the way it was. And I think just English fans and the FA are just scared of change, whereas I think La Liga are innovating so much here that it's just going to be so far away from anything else in the market. And I think it adds to it, because don't get me wrong, some people don't like stats. That's their prerogative, and fair play, but I enjoy them. I think they add to the story a bit more. And if you're watching it on the TV, when a player scores a goal and it goes to the slow-mo of it, it has how expected the shots to go in, the conversion rate. And I think it's just really cool because it just adds so many more graphics to the game, and it's just a better viewing experience because sometimes I don't think there's a massive problem without it, but I just think it adds to it so much more. But let's face it, what's one of the best things about just sports really? It's the narratives that go on. It's essentially a reality TV show because in the English League, you've got Pep and Klopp, they're going at it. Arteta is Pep's understudy, he's challenging the title. It makes it fantastic. And I think that used to be the case in Italy. They had so many rival teams with Juventus and Milan and Inter Milan, and they were just great against each other. And it used to be the case with Spain because they had Messi and Ronaldo. That was the biggest narrative in sports. Did they like each other? Did they even really talk to each other? They were the best players in the world at the time, and they were playing against on the best teams in the same league. And I think that added to it, which is why I think this, and I've said it in a previous video, I've said I think this will be great for La Liga because you've got Jude Bellingham, who is just so arrogant in a good way. He's so self-assured, and he is going to be the face of Real Madrid for many years. I think if you can get Mbappe, it's going to be fantastic because Mbappe is dying for a Champions League, and who else would you go to get a Champions League other than Real Madrid? Another one is Erling Haaland because from all accounts, I personally don't believe it because I've read somewhere that only Man City, Erling Haaland's dad, Haaland himself, and his other agent knows about his contract, but apparently he's got a release clause this summer for only non-English teams. I don't think it's true, but if it is true, maybe Barcelona might buy Haaland, maybe Real Madrid might buy Haaland. And if they can just get all the best players, which they seem to be doing at the moment, they seem to be accumulating them all back to Spain, then I think it's fantastic because we all want Barca and Real Madrid to be back at it again. And hopefully, they were my dark horses, hopefully Barcelona will have a good European campaign because if they can get to the quarter, the semi-finals again, it would just be great to see them back there, and it will remind everyone, oh yeah, Barcelona is still there because obviously they went to the Europa League last season and it just kind of decreased. But if you got the young Spanish lads in the Barca team, Lewandowski up front, and then you've got the Brazilian lads up front with maybe Mbappe or Haaland, and then Bellingham in behind. I think those two going against each other, it's the matchup for the next 10 years, isn't it really? But we'll see. Girona might fall off. I really hope they don't, but they might fall off and come fifth, and then no one's bothered about them. Barcelona might get into even more financial trouble and have to sell a lot of their good players, and Bellingham might not fancy it in Spain anymore and go to England, or Endrick might be a complete flop and just dwindle out, really. But I don't think that'll be the case. I think it will all go well for La Liga. I think their TV rights in England are up for renewal probably next season because it expires in 2025. So it'll be good to see, maybe Sky, maybe they get their own streaming service, maybe BT, but whoever it is, hopefully is for the entire UK population to watch. And I'm sure you guys in other countries love seeing La Liga too. Or you might not, I don't know. But yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know if you think La Liga is or will be the best league in the world again. Because I think it will be. I think the Premier League at the moment it is, but I think the Liga can be again. And I think all the omens are good for it. Let me know who you support, if you think, the Premier League, the Italian League, the German League is the best and will be for many years to come. There's been murmurs about Super League again, which is just going to really die down, I think. But you never know, they've changed it a bit. I think there's about 64 teams in it this time with 3 leagues and promotion and relegation. So they've obviously heard the criticisms of it, but I probably think it'll die down. And yeah, thanks for watching the video. If you could like, that'd be great. If you could leave a comment, fantastic. And if you're new here, if you want to subscribe, I've got more content coming out, and it'll be a lot more in the new year. So thanks for watching.